Welcome back to Football Daily, where you guessed it, we're talking about January exits. Yesterday, I took to Twitter to ask you guys at home for one name for a player from your own club that you want gone in January. The reaction was fairly mixed, and I'm not going to lie, there were some absolute stinkers in there. So today I thought I'd do something a little bit different to my usual ranking tier list style videos. I've stolen the concept very much from, is it Lad Bible or Sport Bible, whichever of those two do this. Strongly agree, agree, disagree, and strongly disagree. Those are the four categories. I'm going to go through a statement from each of you guys at home of a player you want sold. I'm going to tell you whether I agree, strongly disagree, or strongly disagree with it. Let's start with Arsenal and Dylan Thomas. Dylan. This one stinks, mate. This one needs flushing. Dylan says Arsenal should sell Xhaka and try to lure Jude Bellingham. Granit. Strongly disagree, obviously. He started every single Premier League game for Arsenal this season, all 17 of them, and he has been exceptional. In this new forward role, he is a key component to the Mikel Arteta team. What a horrible decision it would be to sell him in January, and the idea of buying Jude Bellingham in January for Arsenal, or any stage for Arsenal, no offence, Gooners, is laughable. It's laughable. The guy's going to either Man City or Madrid. Let's just move on, because that suggestion was painful. They're not all that bad. They are not all that bad. Let's go to Aurora Cader's shout, and they said, Aston Villa, there are a number of candidates on the fringe of the first team, but one of the bigger hitters I consider selling is Ollie Watkins. And I'm not going to surprise. I'm not going to lie. This surprised me. Because he's got 3 goals, 4 assists in 16 games this season. But 4 of those goal involvements have come under Unai Emery. Which, you know, is only a couple of months, given he also had the World Cup break as well. 2 goals, 2 assists. And I think he plays a vital role in this Aston Villa system. He's not as clinical as Danny Ings. And I don't think anybody is arguing that he is. But to say you'd sell Ollie Watkins, you would need an absolutely top replacement. I don't see this even being a possibility. For me, this is another strong disagree. It's 2 bad starts for the Football Daily family. For Bournemouth, Ben Pearson, I haven't watched an awful lot of Bournemouth this season. When they've been on the television, obviously Ben Pearson hasn't been involved. 17th in the squad, 4 minutes this season, not getting enough game time. A lot of Bournemouth fans were saying Ben Pearson is the guy simply because of lack of minutes. I'm just going to trust him. I'm going to strongly agree. For Brentford, Joe Carhill says Canos. Sadly, and it is quite sad, isn't it? But he is out of contract in the summer. If they could get a fee, and I think for players that are out of contract in the summer, I'm just going to pretend that an imaginary buyer did pop up. If that did happen and somebody was desperate to sign them, would you let them go? I would. Strongly agree on that one. Not getting enough minutes, and I'm happy to back Joe Carhill's suggestion. For Brighton, lots of suggestions. For Leandro Trossard, here's one from Owen. He says, Trossard, recoup some or more of the money we spent, around 15 mil on him, before his contract expires. Clearly isn't putting in the effort, but an incredible player on his day. And that isn't putting in the effort line, I think, is very interesting. Now, he's obviously not been involved in recent squads, but if we look here at some quotes from Zerbi, I like him as a player, but I want more from him. He can play better, he can work harder, he can run more. I want players who give 100%. Without these characteristics, they can't play with me. That suggests to me that he is not a nailed-on starter at Brighton, despite the fact he's had a sensational season, 7 goals and 2 assists. I think Mitoma is probably favoured over him out on that left-hand side. I wouldn't be surprised to see this happen. He's out of contract in the summer, a small fee to try and recoup what they paid for him from a team like Tottenham Hotspur. Who are interested, Tottenham fans, let me know what you would think of Leandro Trossard coming to the club. Would he work hard enough under Antonio Conte? Because the Zerbi clearly doesn't think he's going to. Either way, Owen, it's a decent shout. Next up for Chelsea, Scott Summers says, Jorginho, it's pretty clear he won't be renewing, so might as well try and recoup something for him. I'm actually going to disagree. Not strongly, but I am going to disagree with Scott's suggestion here. 13 starts in the Premier League, and I simply don't think Chelsea have the bodies in midfield to warrant this. I think Jorginho is going to be needed across the second half of the season. It's not like some of the other players that I would say, even with 6 months left, like Leandro Trossard, cash in, take your money. I don't think the £10 million matters really to Chelsea that you would get for Jorginho, and you just need him in there. You know, with Kante's injury problems, with Kovacic's injury history, and just a general lack of bodies in that role, I think to remove one now would be pretty foolish, especially someone who is as senior in the dressing room as Jorginho, despite the fact a lot of Chelsea fans don't think he has the impact on games that he should have. So I'm going to disagree with the Jorginho suggestion, but it's not awful. Crystal Palace. One suggestion here from Ross L. He listed a number of players. I'm going to take the top one, which is Jordan Ayew. Now, his contract is up in the summer. He's 31 years old. He's played 14 games. In fact, I think it's 14 starts this season. 1 goal, 1 assist. I mean, if you could get a fee for him, I agree. If you can find a suitor for Ayew, I think I would be happy with that move. He is more of a facilitator than he is a goal scorer, but, you know, Philippe Mateta up there. We've also got Odsonne Edouard up there. I think that would be absolutely fine to let him go. I don't see them getting relegated. I don't see them pushing for Europe. I think they are going to be in that middle band, and any sort of fee would be a good deal. Next up for Everton, we've got Joe Schuff, and it's Tom Davies. Strongly agree with this one. If you can get a fee, then absolutely. Unlike Jordan Ayew, he's just not getting any minutes, and his contract is up in the summer. I just think that he has plateaued at Everton, and the midfield, despite the fact it started quite well, now does look a bit patchy. Alex Iwobi's out for a while, and I still don't expect Tom Davies to step into that role. You know, I would like to see those minutes given to somebody like James Garner. So yeah, overall, I think for the good of Tom Davies' career, and if Everton can get any money at all through the door, they would be absolutely loving it. That's not a bad shout. Our very own Football Daily legend and big Fulham fan, Henry Hill, chimed in. He said, sadly, Nathaniel Chalobah for Fulham, not at the same level, and money could go on another decent alternative in midfield to partner the likes of Polinia and Harrison Reed. Now, his contract is up in the summer, but I just defer this one to Henry Hill. I'm strongly agreeing with him without having full knowledge of the situation. Henry, I'm trusting you here. So Fulham fans, if Henry's wrong, let me know in the comments below and I'll get on to him. Next up, we have Zeke's suggestion, which is Junior Firpo for Leeds. Second best to Pascal Struijk at the moment. Werber is potentially a new left-back, bumping him down the pecking order even more. Rumours that Real Betis want him. And I cash in now, and I totally agree with Zeke here. I think it is the right idea. Now, he is third choice to let him go in January. If Betis offer a fee, I think it would be absolutely superb. He's still only 26 years old, but he does have that contract to 2025, doesn't he? And he has played just 114 minutes this season, so I think that would be a fine move. Austin says, Leicester, we need to sell Soyuncu. There are others, but nobody will want them. I mean, Soyuncu is playing behind Amati in the pecking order, isn't he? 1 game this season. Has to be a strong agree. His contract is also up in the summer. A lot of these players contract up in the summer. So like I said earlier, this is on the proviso that they did have a suitor. There was a magical suitor that appeared with some cash for a player who's out of contract in 6 months, which I'm aware is fairly unlikely. But if it did happen, and I know that Atletico Madrid have been following Soyuncu, they are very interested in him, I think it would be an idea to let him go because he's not playing anyway. You know, Amati's ahead of him in the pecking order. Leicester, a little bit like, you know, Fulham and a little bit like Crystal Palace, are going to be in that middle bracket. I don't think they're going to be pushing for Europe, but I also don't think they're going to go down. The next suggestion was sent in by Eric. He's a Liverpool fan, and he says, sell Naby Keita. Some would argue around Ox, but I feel like Naby is a more uncertain player. This season, he's played just 96 minutes, and that is crazy given how awful Liverpool's midfield situation has been this season at times with injuries and form. The fact he hasn't got more minutes than that is shocking. Yeah, you look at his injury history and it's just riddled at Liverpool, and it was a little bit riddled before that when he was part of the Red Bull group, I have to say. Not particularly impressive, but if you were to let Naby Keita go, is there enough bodies? A little bit like Jorginho in that Liverpool midfield? I don't know. I'm not too sure about that one. I think I would just keep him. Just because Liverpool are still pushing for top 4. Naby Keita, even if it only plays, you know, 8 games across the second half of the season, that's better than having nobody in there. They're so short in midfield, I don't think they can be letting people go. Unlike, you know, Ayew and some of the other players we've spoken about, they are pushing for a spot in the top 4. They're pushing for, you know, a Champions League win. So I think it would be foolish to let another midfielder go when they're already this short. So I'm going to have to disagree with Eric. Manchester City, Sergio Gomez, says Kieran Parker. I'll agree, but tentatively, not strongly. I think they've got enough left-back options to allow him to go out on loan. I don't think this should be a permanent move, but if they were to let him go out on loan and get some more minutes, because I think, what is it, 106 Premier League minutes so far this season, bit of a dogged timing at Southampton midweek. And we've seen Ake playing at left-back consistently. We know Joao Cancelo is the #1 left-back at the club, so I'll be absolutely fine with that if it was to happen. But I think loan, not a permanent. He only joined in the summer, let's not forget, on a long-term contract. So there's no need to let him go permanently. Void says Aaron Wan-Bissaka has played good for the past few games, but you can see how much better we are with Dalot. Loan him out to the summer, then sell him, as we'll make much more money than just selling him in the summer. I'm also going to disagree with this one. I don't think you can let Wan-Bissaka go out on loan without another right-back. I don't think Man United have the funds to get another right-back, and if you were to loan in another right-back, it's going to take them time to bed in and understand that system. What I've seen recently from Aaron Wan-Bissaka has been really promising. It feels like that World Cup break has been more positive for him than any other player in this Manchester United squad. So I'm absolutely fine keeping him as the backup. I don't think it is worth trading him out and trying to scratch around to find some older veteran loanee when Aaron Wan-Bissaka is a competent backup. Newcastle, there was a few fans who had this opinion. I've picked out Snathy. He says, ASM, Alan Saint-Maximin, incredible player, but he's too good to be a bench player for us if he does not fit into Howe's style of play. And that was effectively the opinion of 2 or 3 Newcastle fans who didn't believe he was going to operate as a presser. Newcastle, the best pressing side in the league, work like absolute dogs off the ball, as we've been able to see, you know, with some incredible performances against the likes of Arsenal. Just defensively, they work so hard, and that's not Alan Saint-Maximin's game. He is a ball progressor, he's exciting, he's a blockbuster sort of moment player, but overall it feels a little bit like Newcastle progressed past that and are now more of a team. Now his last start came on the 9th of November, and that was a long old time ago. I think I'm going to put agree here, because I think it's worth keeping him if you're 1-0 down, 70th minute, towards the back end of the season, you're pushing for Champions League football. He is an explosive player to come off the bench. But if a big offer came in from somebody on the continent for him, I would be perfectly willing to accept it if I was Eddie Howe, given how well the team is doing, even without him in it. So I'm going to put agree, but absolutely fine if he stays, because, you know, you still have such a high level of talent coming on and impacting games from the bench. David says Emmanuel Dennis. I'll agree, because clearly the club don't fancy him. You know, we've all read the reports recently of him being offloaded and trying to find suitors for a player that did cost them £20 million in the summer. £20 million, 3 starts this season, 1 goal. No goals since October. What has gone on there? He's obviously not fitting into this system, not working quite right behind the scenes, I guess. So I'll agree, but again, I wouldn't mind having him as part of the squad to come on and impact games if you're desperate for a goal in a relegation battle. Is it a bad thing to have 1 too many strikers on the bench? I don't necessarily think so. So unless a big offer came in for him, or at least some chunk of money, I'd be pretty happy to keep him. I'm wavering here between agree and disagree. I'll say agree, just because I am going to pretend a decent suitor comes in. Harvey Martin has Southampton's suggestion. He says Theo Walcott off the wages. 75k a week for a coach is mad. Strongly agree on this one. Clearly not part of the current setup, is he? Just 1 start this season. Those wages are chunky, and the club's just moved in a different direction. It's moved towards academy, young talent, and Theo Walcott, sadly, is seeing out his career, and I think he's probably pretty happy to see out his career at a Premier League club. Behind the scenes, I'm sure he is quite influential amongst that young group. So, yeah, I strongly agree if you get an opportunity to get a fee, but again, his contract's up in the summer. It's unlikely. It's a bit of a weird situation. Next up, every Tottenham fan said this. Greg was my favourite, though. He said, Brazilian Javier Zanetti, the one and only number 12. Emerson Aparecido Leti de Souza Junior Royale. Emerson Royale, to you and me. And yeah, I think I'm going to agree with this one. Not strongly, because I do think Conte thinks he's the best right back at the club. You know, I would not be starting him, but Conte does. And you've just got to accept that. So I think I'll agree that if an offer came in, you should be selling. But you would be stitching up your manager to let him go, because he clearly doesn't fancy the likes of Jed Spence in that role. I can understand Tottenham fans' frustration, though, because, you know, bottom 25% for expected assists, I think bottom 30% in Europe for shot-creating actions, and this is a Conte wing-back. All of their chance creation and sort of attacking thrust should be coming from those wide areas, and it just doesn't. It just doesn't. So I understand, Spurs fans. West Ham. The suggestion here was from Vandy. He says Craig Dawson, he's been wanting to move since last summer, is out of contract after the season. Might as well get a fee for him. Okay, I'll agree with this one. Putting him in the agree category. Not strongly agree though, because it's not like there's loads of central defensive cover there. And the central defensive cover that is there, the likes of Kurt Zouma, currently injured. Aguerd had a long-term injury, so wouldn't be a massive problem keeping him. One of the more experienced players in the group. But again, you know, if Wolves do pay up for him, then it's a lovely situation to be in for a player who's got 6 months left on his contract. Talking of Wolves, this one shocked me. Football Appreciation, who's clearly a Wolves fan, says Gonçalo Guedes. Not a woeful player, but hasn't adjusted at all. But if you can get a good percent of the fee paid back, it would be worth it. We've too many wingers and second strikers. Strongly disagree with this one. I strongly disagree with this one for the simple fact he's been here like 5 months. It was a €30 million deal, and Julian Lopetegui has only been in the door 2 minutes. Give Julian Lopetegui the next 6 months to assess this squad. He might, after a few weeks, think Gonçalo Guedes fits in really nicely alongside Matheus Cunha. It's not an impossible thought. So I would be definitely holding out. I think it's way too soon, given that there's 8 starts this season, 2 goal involvements. The output has been low, but there's definitely a player there, and you've just got to trust that Lopetegui knows what he's doing. I would strongly disagree with the idea of getting rid of him after just 5 months. So that was it. My reaction to your suggestions of one player each club should sell this January. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button, hit subscribe. Thanks very much for watching, everybody. We'll see you later. Bye.